So I came across an article last week about different aging contests. So I thought I'd talk about that today. I think most of you are familiar with the X Prize. And the one that I came across last week was the Biomarkers of Aging Consortium has offered a series of 3 prizes to improve the tracking of biological age, as opposed to chronological age, which is based on your birthday. Your biological age is what your biology says your age is. And, you can be 55 and falling apart, or you can be 105 and still running marathons. And then there is something called Healthy Aging Challenge. And AARP also has a interesting innovation lab. So, update on X Prize. On the 17th of January, we got an email which said that they outlined the total number of people that they had actually attempt the prize. And so they closed the primary registration on December 20th. And we had all of our stuff turned in by December 20th, so we were fine. And then December 31st, I guess you could continue to submit paperwork. And then they closed it out on December 31st. And so they had 597 teams say that they were interested in tackling this. They weeded out 190, or weeded that out down to 190. So they threw out 407. And we think that we've moved up, because I would think that they would have told these 407 people that you didn't finish the submission, you're not quite qualified. So basically, it looks like we're competing with 190 other groups. And a little more interesting information about the team. So a little over half of them are for-profit private companies. 14% are not yet incorporates. And I don't know whether we fall into the not yet incorporates of the for-profit private company, because we actually have 3 companies that are dealing in this, one of which is already completely set up, one of which we haven't even started setting up, and then one of which is in progress, but it hasn't been completed yet. The only one that's actually set up is our company in Sri Lanka, Siddha Medicine and Residences. 12% were universities, 8% were nonprofit, 2% were public, and I'm not quite sure what they mean by public. Unless it's just a group kind of like our group, we're just getting together and saying, well, let's try this. Anyhow, the good news is it looks like we've beat out 2/3 of the competition so far. And since they're giving away 40 things of $250,000, we have a 1 in 4 chance of winning that if you just divide this number by the 40 they're giving out. So, or 1 in 5 chance. So we are definitely doing fairly well. Time will tell whether we actually get some money from them. And this is kind of the overview of X Prize, what they expect to go on over the next few months. So they're in the process of reviewing these 190 submissions, and they hope to finish that by the end of March. And then we'll be notified of semifinal or final status sometime in April. And then teams that are not selected as semifinalists or milestone 1 awardees will still be able to continue the competition, which means even if we don't get any money from them, we can still proceed with the competition. But it does mean, of course, that we'd be paying for it out of our pockets. And the proof of concept studies are basically clinical trials that demonstrate that you can take what you have or your ideas and apply them to people and be successful. And if you're successful, if you're really successful, you win this Milestone 2 award. And that's going to be $1 million. So we've got a long ways to go before we can get that. We've got, if there's only 10 of these $1 million awards, and so you divide 10 by 190, it's like 5%. Of course, it's really going to depend on how the quality of our work and whether our approach is the right one. And I have a bit of a competition going on here because May 12 to 14, which is when they're going to give away this Milestone 1 awards, the American Aging Association is having a conference in Anchorage at the same time. And I haven't figured out what I'm going to do. If they say, well, come and get your money. And I haven't gotten this survey yet, so I'm expecting that anytime. So the Biomarkers of Aging Challenge, I consider this it's a really key thing, and it's one of the real weak points to X Prize's whole concept, because if you can't tell how old a person is and measure that age, you certainly can't tell if you've taken 5 or 10 or 15 or 20 years off of their age. And they are basing it just on function, which I think is a little bit weak as a means to do it. Because like with muscle function, it's easy to change the marker on muscle function. And it's just as easy to go down as to go up. So like my physiological age in terms of muscles is 45, according to doctors that measured it last year in Sri Lanka. But if I spent 6 weeks on bed rest, it'd be all gone. I'd be back to my normal age of, I'll turn 67 this year. So the first part of this challenge was the chronological age prediction, and they gave away $30,000 to the top 3 people, and they got it down to within the range of 2.5 years. So they could take epigenetics and proteomics and say a person, and look at a person and say that they were, say, 57, and they would be within 2.5 years of that. And that's close enough so you could measure an age change of -5 years, probably pretty accurately. And then the next prediction that they want to do is a longevity prediction challenge of when people will die. And they're going to give $70,000 away in that one. And that one is, they've given it away, but I couldn't find any details on how accurate people were. And then the third one is the health span prediction or multi-morbidity, where they want you to look at basically what's going to kill you, which is a very, very key thing if you want to postpone aging. Because if say you have kidney disease and it's going to kill you in 5 years, there's no point in trying to improve your heart, which is going to last for 30 years, or vice versa. And that one is the biggest award of all. And so they've got 37 teams, and I was amazed at this number, that they had 550 different clocks. And I can't even think of how you would develop that many clocks unless all they're doing is tweaking like the epigenetic or the proteomic clocks. And the way they did this was they took data from 500 different people, and this was given to all the different teams. And then the teams would try the different clocks and try to get the most accurate data. And the second round is, or was, looking at predicting the agings of death for the 15 or 20% of the subjects who had already died. And the last round starts in July. And it's the most difficult, of course, because they're looking at age-related diseases. But it's also the most important in terms of clinical use, because if you know, like I mentioned, if you know that somebody's dying of a kidney disease, that's what you should focus on fixing. And if we knew that was going to happen earlier, like with kidney disease, sometimes you can maybe not reverse it, but delay it significantly just by drinking more water. And if you wait too long on this, and sometimes you don't have any indications that you're sick until irreversible damage has happened. But if you knew this 10 years in advance and just say, well, drink an extra cup of water every day and your kidney will last 20 years instead of 10 years, that's a mighty easy fix. So on the predicted age, this line would be the ideal. And you can see that all of these people were very close to this line. And I think this range here, up and minus on the line, is in the range of 10 years. So they were getting almost everybody plus or minus 10 years. And these outliers are very odd. It'd be very interesting to look at some of these outliers and see just what was going on there. And so one of the people who developed epigenetic testing for aging was Steve Horvath. And the article in Science asked Dr. Horvath if he felt that this technology is ready for the clinic, and he does not. And the reason he doesn't is because if you find something or you see that you're far too old, like maybe this dot right here, who looks like he's about 70 when really he's only 40. Unless you knew how to fix that, it might just be a depressing piece of statistic and might actually make you live less long because you're going to worry about the fact that your epigenetics say you're 70 when you're only 40 something. So another prize was Healthy Aging Challenge. And this prize was offered by the Henry Hillman Foundation. And it was focused on developing technologies that will improve the lives of elderly people. And they're really from southwestern Pennsylvania, so that's where they were targeting. And the projects were aimed at a whole bunch of different possibilities. Here's kind of a list that they talked about, but I understand that it was not restricted to this list. So if you came up with, say, a unique brace that you could use on your leg that would help prevent falls because you're getting frail, it would certainly fit on this list very nicely. And the AARP's Innovation Labs has this innovative projects thing, which is not so much as a competition as a pulling together of creative entrepreneurs to share ideas for keeping people over 50. To keep them mobile and keep them from developing frailty and otherwise, and any way really to improve their lives. And they're leveraging their relationships with universities and other startup accelerators to help create products and services aimed at the old. Okay, stop my recording.